Good evening, everybody. It is Matthew Brenner here, and today is a special Christmas edition, December 25th, 2016, and I would like to talk about a story that has been on mainstream media, on Fox News, and in the alternative media as well. Apparently, there is a social media group named Secrets of Jihadis that has a network on Telegram, and this has been covered by several conservative and alternative media news outlets. They released a list of Christian churches in all 50 states and different countries across the world. You know, as if what happened in the German Christmas market wasn't enough. And now you have, what I'm inclined to believe is you do have lone wolves, you know, these jihadists that believe in the Quran and they're fundamentalists. But you also have CIA and USA backed groups. Now, if you really go down the rabbit hole and you look at ISIS, because let's face it, the media is reporting that this is ISIS, alternative and Fox News, which is carried on your television. So that is causing terror, no doubt, and they've implemented some security measures. So let's look at the Fox News clip.
A Fox News alert, ISIS putting out a holiday hit list on U.S. churches just ahead of Christmas, calling for bloody celebrations into the new year. That as authorities in Australia thwart a terror plot for the holiday.
Unbelievable. They made a series of arrests. So how should Christians respond to this? Fox News contributor and First Baptist Church pastor Robert Jeffrey joins us. Pastor, you heard about these threats. What's your reaction?
Yes.
What are some of your parishioners saying to you they should do?
Look, Christians above all people should not surrender to fear. The Bible says God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. And if Christians stay home this weekend because of a threat from ISIS, well, ISIS wins. Now, that doesn't mean churches shouldn't try to protect their congregants. At our church, we have armed policemen at every service, not just this weekend. We don't allow backpacks into our sanctuary. That's not succumbing to fear. That's just exercising common sense.
Can you believe we've come to a place, though, where you can't take a backpack into church and you have to be patted down? I went to church in Charleston, and you had to be patted down and go through an X-ray machine. You were interviewing Cardinal Dolan. He said they're going to have SWAT teams over the weekend.
St. Patrick's?
Well, look, I think this threat against churches, along with what's happened in Germany and Turkey, underscores the need to finally deal decisively with ISIS. I was talking this week to a military official who said we could eradicate ISIS in a matter of months, if not weeks, if it were not for these artificial regulations that we are shackled by. The good news is we have a new commander-in-chief coming, President Donald Trump, who is resolved to rid the world of ISIS. That's going to result in the alleviation of suffering of millions of Christians around the world and making our own nation more secure. That's something we can all rejoice in.
But as you know...
Indeed, that's something that's been brought up, is that they're actually not exactly an impressive band of fighters. They're kind of a ragtag band of fighters, and we could really, if we wanted to, we could go in and kick their ass. But the fact is, we want them in play because there are a variety of reasons. I think it's because we have embedded CIA assets. We can control them. We can use them for proxy wars. And it should be pretty obvious to anybody that has taken the quote-unquote red pill, you know, the obvious Matrix reference. You should know what's going on. But the problem is, jihadists and radical Islam followers that are not under CIA control take ISIS seriously, and they might actually go out and do terrible things. This is the inherent problem. I think we need to find a new solution, and maybe some of these jihadi fighters can go legit. I don't know what exactly you can do, but this can't continue like this. Now, if you're having a little trouble believing, as did I, that our government could be behind putting together some kind of puppet organization, then just look at the evidence of how they released the command structure way back when. Now, Trump saying that Obama is the founder of ISIS is a bit misleading because it goes back further than that. It's more like the CIA, and then it was further supported by like George W. Bush, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the State Department. That's more accurate. So when CNN did the smear piece on him, of course, they're going to use that quote. But he knows that our government could have crushed ISIS, and they missed the opportunity time and time again. And even during the debates, when they were saying, oh, we'll go into Mosul in a couple of weeks, and Donald Trump is saying, well, why are you giving them notice? It's like telling a burglar in your house that you're going to call the cops in 10 minutes. That's kind of ridiculous, no? Exactly. So, they are our proxy entity, and we have failed in Syria. So, for these guys to come out and release this group of churches, it's a huge screw you to Americans during the Christmas season. And the poor Germans, they already have enough problems to deal with. And it's really sowing the seeds of unrest throughout the world, and it's actually rather infuriating and disgusting if you think about it. But here, watch this about the creation of ISIS, and then you decide how you feel.
Hi, everybody. Pete Santilli here with a hard-hitting report on an article that came out of ZeroHedge.com. Now, this is how I'm going to hit this and hit it really hard. Here's the title of it. It's out there circulating on the internet. It's titled ISIS Strategy Leak Reveals a Syrian Takeover Plot. U.S. created a group of very intelligent enemies, it says. But while Western propaganda would like ISIS to appear to be run by religious fanaticism, it instead, as RT reports, this originally came from RT, has been functioning more like a secret intelligence service. Now, this is what I'd like to call out. Ladies and gentlemen, do not be deceived by organizational charts thinking that you should be fearful of this entity. The entire reason why this chart was put out there and translated as follows was because ISIS was fabricated by the intelligence services. And I'm going to prove that. I have documented proof that in fact is the case. We already know a couple of people high up in the presidential administrations, as well as the media has been also admitting some things about the leader of ISIS. We'll get to that momentarily. But look at this chart right here. Draft for a secret service structure for the Islamic State. For the first time, the Haji Bakr documents now make it possible to reach conclusions on how the IS leadership is organized and what role former officials in the government of ex-dictator Saddam Hussein play in it. Above all, however, they show how the takeover in northern Syria was planned, making the group's later advances into Iraq possible in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, this organizational chart smells of American organizational corporatism. Okay, here at the top it says the Emir of Security Division for a region. Regions and divisions and security departments, surveillance, these are all terms that basically the intelligence operatives that want you to believe that these fanatical religious Islamists are very, very well organized so that you can combat them by sending billions, if not trillions of dollars to their military-industrial complex. Now, we do know with absolute certainty, as was published here on Washington'sBlog.com, 42 admitted false flag attacks. I'll provide a link to this thing. If anybody out there thinks that false flag attacks, basically just creating terrorism and blaming it on another country, whereas the U.S. intelligence services and our government sanctioning it will create an event and then blame it on our enemy that we go after. That way, we Americans just put money into a bucket. We're fearful, and we help support the military-industrial complex. I'm going to go down here to, I think it's number 32. This is interesting, okay, because when I first looked at this, I was very struck by it. It said former Department of Justice lawyer John Yoo suggested in 2005 that the U.S. should go on the offensive against al-Qaeda. And I said to myself, I said, really, did a justice lawyer, John Yoo, really say that? And I actually did some research, and let me show you this, okay? Blame it on al-Qaeda. I'm sorry, not that one right there. There it is. Going on the offensive. Published in the Los Angeles Times in 2005, July 13, 2005, by John Yoo, a law professor of UC Berkeley and a former administration official. This is what he writes in his own words. Another tool would have our intelligence agencies create a false terrorist organization. It could have its own websites, recruitment centers, training camps, and fundraising operations. And of course, now we know that they have their own organizational charts. But it could launch fake terrorist operations. Okay? Could launch fake terrorist operations and claim credit for real terrorist strikes, helping to sow the confusion within al-Qaeda's ranks, causing operatives to doubt others' identities and to question the validity of communication. So here we are with a presidential administration official and attorney suggesting launching fake terrorism that you're basically paying for. Okay. Now there's a CBS News article here, and I'm just going to play maybe an excerpt of it. But the leader of ISIS himself, listen to this.
Forces attacking the Iraqi government have declared their territory a new country under strict Islamic law. Their leader is becoming, in effect, the new Osama bin Laden. Elizabeth Palmer has learned more about him.
In this elaborately produced video released by ISIS in May, there's a glaring omission. Among the fighters and the ISIS faithful, we see not a single glimpse of their leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. In fact, there are only 2 known photographs of the man born in Iraq in 1971 who now controls the most extreme Islamist army on earth. And that's no coincidence, says Firas Abi Ali, a Middle East analyst.
You don't survive for a very long time in this kind of business if everybody knows your name and knows your face and knows where you stay.
In 2005, during the U.S. occupation of Iraq, American soldiers arrested al-Baghdadi. But when the military closed its Camp Bucca prison, Baghdadi was handed over to the Iraqis, who let him go.
That's right. They'd let him go, ladies and gentlemen, because he was an intelligence fabrication to lead ISIS, and that, in fact, is with plenty of research that you can do on your own. You can go determine this on your own. I've already looked up the Los Angeles Times article myself, where John Yoo admitted that one of our tools of intelligence agency would be to create a false terrorist organization. This, as far as I'm concerned, as of July 13, 2005, was in fact the birth of ISIS. ISIS, we know, has been supported by, funded by the likes of John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Barack Obama, as well as Hillary Clinton. As we know, the Benghazi attacks, it is well documented through whistleblower accounts that Ambassador Stevens was negotiating arms from al-Qaeda in Libya to be delivered to al-Qaeda or ISIS in Syria. So this entire hoax here, and here's my point about this article that was published by RT and republished by Zero Hedge. If the intelligence services really had this information about an organizational chart, ask yourself, why would they want to, if they had acquired this, why would they want to broadcast this, especially to those underlings that may not have access to this organizational chart? This has been easily communicated throughout the world to the organization itself, those that may not have even seen the formal organizational structure. But thanks to our intelligence services, they have broadcast it to the entire ISIS organization, even some people that have not seen it. But guess what? It wasn't intended for those people or to display that we caught them red-handed with documentation. The entire reason this thing was broadcast to the entire world today is because they want you to remain fearful. They want you to continue to support the effort to go after ISIS. But we should all know through some deep research and basically just, I guess, just reading the front pages of our news headlines sometimes from time to time. We hear John McCain, Lindsey Graham. We hear members of Congress that are supporting ISIS that did so in their effort to support the moderate ISIS Islamists that were fighting against Syria. We know that we funded them. They're an intelligence creation. And this document right here proves that the intelligence services published this stuff mainly to keep the fear of the American public going, so that you pull money out of your wallet and give it to the military-industrial complex. All right. Food for thought. Here's proof and documentation that they just want to keep us fearful. They want to show us that, ISIS intends to take over Syria and take over the entire Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, hang on to your money. Do your absolute darndest, especially to hide the cheese from the IRS. Set up a business and legally do all of your write-offs, because any money that you're giving to them in the form of taxes is going towards supporting this organizational chart that was essentially fabricated by the intelligence services. Every single American needs to do their absolute darndest to legally, of course, setting up small businesses and writing off all of your income so that you don't have to pay income taxes. Do that, because your money will go towards supporting this effort by the military-industrial complex to keep the perpetual war on terror going. I'm Pete Santilli. This has been a special report here with, of course, a twist of hard-hitting commentary.
So, there you have it. The Islamic State, brought to you by the likes of George W. Bush, going way back when, Obama, Hillary Clinton, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and the CIA. Obviously, it's a CIA shill puppet organization. There was even an article in the New York Slimes, the toilet paper of record, as Gerald Celente calls it, that said weapons were falling into the hands of jihadists that we were providing. And that's the mainstream media, folks. So if the mainstream media is reporting on it, then we know. The alternative media and the mainstream media that are both telling you the same thing, then, there's a really good chance something really fishy is going on. Anyhow, this backs up what Putin has been saying and what other people have been saying. We are in a dirty business, and it's got to stop. Merry Christmas, folks.